All right, I am taking a break. I did the whole day working on somebody else's statistics bullshit, and I'm not happy about it. So, those people can go fuck themselves. The other thing I was doing was listening to a bunch of communist nonsense, like literally, admittedly communist nonsense. But it was very illuminating. Gave a real perspective. Actually, we have to change this thumbnail because this is not communist enough. Sorry, guys. I kind of did this on the fly because everybody else is talking about this already besides me. And I want in on the action because I'm a douche just like everybody else. So there's less of me. All right. And here we go. So we're talking about there will always be. I was talking to somebody yesterday, chatting with them on the Facebook chat, which I would like to encourage the same person to instead go and join my Discord, which would probably be a better way to communicate because honestly, Facebook is bullshit by now. But there's an article out now, and we were discussing, what really is a communist, what's really a democratic socialist, what is any of this worth, any of these labels. By the way, people on the right have at times labeled Hillary Clinton as a communist. Well, at one point in her life, she probably was one because she at least had no problem with it. Now, there's a difference between a communist and a communist sympathizer and a fellow traveler. Even what's it called? Even communist theoreticians believe that themselves. Lenin used to talk about useful idiots and fellow travelers and whatever. It's a thing. It exists. So at the very least, Hillary Clinton was a fellow traveler. She was she interned for Robert Troy Haft, who was a communist lawyer in the 1970s over in Berkeley. Now we're not going to be. I don't think that this is going to take very long. I mean, I could be wrong. We have Sislowski here. I love Pink Pony's back. One of the best ever. One of the best ever trolls, guys. Pink Pony, baby. You come back anytime he wants to come in, or whatever the fuck he is, if he is a he, or if he's one of those, flower people, he's welcome back. Bernie Sanders is not the left, says the New Republic. Well, some people might say the New Republic's not the real left, but I'm inclined to say let people fight over what the fuck the left is anymore, because I don't think that they even know. And indeed, now they're projecting a new litmus test. You might have to excuse me. I don't know if I can talk very long because I have like kind of dry mouth, and I'm also on a fast, so I can't have any drinks. I do like to take a little sip of water or something whenever I'm doing this. But this is an actual article for the New Republic, which is it is more on the progressive side than on the conservative side, to be sure. It is definitely not a conservative publication. By Sarah Jones, it says, when CNN's Jake Tapper asked Bernie Sanders on Sunday if he wants to abolish the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, the senator was uncharacteristically vague. I think that what we need is to create policies which deal with immigration in a rational way. And a rational way is not locking children up in detention centers or separating them from their mothers, he said. What we need is Trump to sit down with members of Congress and work on a rational program which deals with this serious issue. Now I think Sanders gave the type of answer that I don't think I personally have any objection to what he said. Because in reality, what he said is true, that in order to get any sort of solution in the current legal framework, you need to pass a new law and establish what exactly ICE's role is, if it is to have a role. Now, that role could include abolishing ICE, if some people want it to be abolished. I personally don't give a fuck. I'm fine. Larry Gerke, I did see your messages. Thanks for coming in. The New Republic, absolutely. Sislowski's also here. Bernie has left the left. Yeah, Bernie's going to be shitposted by TYT now, just like Dave Rubin, Anna Kasparian is going to be talking shit about Bernie Sanders and his gay lover that she used to eat dinner with every week. That's what's going to happen now. That's what's gonna happen. She's gonna talk mad shit about him because he for some reason. I'm joking, of course, but the last video was really something. I mean, I don't really think we need to defend Dave Rubin. I think he's perfectly capable of doing it himself. But the fact is that I think that that they're doing it now. TYT is doing that now as a sign of how desperate it's become to maintain some traction. You look on some of their videos, it's mostly trolls. People that, and by the way, I don't really comment on their videos because I don't watch a lot of the Young Turks. They're not the most interesting show on their own network of YouTube people. The Jimmy Dore show is. It just is. The Humanist Report would probably be the next most interesting one. I'm not saying I agree with the people. I'm just saying it's the next most interesting show. You know, the Humanist Report, by the way, I remember watching that before I watched any of the other lefty people on TYT or whatever. Just because the guy had like much more concise videos, much more focused ones. Sanders wasn't the only potential 2020 presidential candidate on Sunday to refuse to endorse the abolition of ICE. There's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing, Senator Kamala Harris of California said on NBC's Meet the Press, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch. But Sanders' reticence was more surprising to his supporters and other liberals. Come on, man, wrote Splinter News editor Jack Merkinson. That's Splinter News, by the way, I think are the people that they made the the reaction to the Supreme Court retirement of Anthony Kennedy. They just wrote the F word like 12 times. And that's why I'm not even saying it, because it's like lost all meaning because we're going to just put a headline, it's going to be the F word 12 times. Yeah, they're really edgy. You sure showed us how avant-garde you guys are. Yeah. And let's hope that the next person who gets a chance asks him why he is still taking such a weak and morally timid position on ICE. Jeremy Scale, co-founder of The Intercept, wrote that Sanders is choosing to be on the wrong side of history on this issue. This is a very funny thing that they started using. They start saying now the wrong side of history. All of these people who are, when have they been on the right side of history? There's so many of these people who they're living in the now, and they're trying to claim, well, we know the way that the future is going to go. Well, no, you don't. The decisions you're making now could actually swing it in the other way, because you're trying to claim that history's momentum is irrespective of your actions. Well, okay, then keep doing what you're going to do, and we'll see how it turns out. Larry Gerke says Anna, that's your new name, Larry Gerke. It's easier to say. Anna is insufferable. Jimmy Dore is the only one of TYTs I can watch anymore. Jimmy Dore is completely boneheaded on guns and immigration. Well, Jimmy Dore is good at I think he's a fairly good presenter. I mean, I don't like his viewpoints, but I think it's very clear where he stands. He's not a waffler, and even if he makes you angry, you have to respect that. You have to respect him. Pink Pony says that's because Anna is better than you, a lot better. You are garbage. I know. I mean, I listen to that every day to remind me. I'm garbage, but she's miserable. Better to be garbage. Created in 2003 by President George W. Bush, ICE has become increasingly unpopular among Democrats as evidence of its abuses continues to grow. Congressman Earl Blumenauer, who voted against the agency's creation, wrote in a Medium post on Sunday that it's time to abolish ICE and start over. On Monday, Congressman Mark Pocan of Wisconsin formally introduced legislation to disband the agency. Insurgent left-wing candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is challenging Congressman Joe Crowley, have already begun to campaign. I believe this story came out after she already beat him. So, I mean, it's bullshit. Spitters are quitters. Nice. There isn't much evidence that it will, at least not under the current leader. Okay, where was it? Ocasio-Cortez belongs to a cohort of Democratic candidates who have positions in common with Sanders: Medicare for all, free higher education, and a $15 minimum wage. But by seeming to support ISIS's continued existence, Sanders has put a wedge between himself and those seeking to pick up the torch he carried in 2016. In the process, he's undermining his position as the nation's most prominent left-wing politician. It's not always clear how Sanders views his role in American politics today. Is he a presidential hopeful, the leader of a political movement? Both are possible, but absent any announcement about his plans for 2020, we are left only with evidence that Sanders does hope to influence American politics on a long-term basis. His wife, Jane O'Mara Sanders, is now head of the Sanders Institute, a progressive think tank. And that's the way that, if I was going to launder money, it would be through that. A think tank of any type is the best way to launder money. And that's what I believe anybody who opens a think tank is doing. And yes, I do mean anybody. Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't work for a think tank. Hint, hint. But while Sanders still draws a crowd, his endorsements don't carry as much weight as left-leaning voters may hope. If his policy, I don't know if I would want to work for a think tank. I feel like people would try to tell me what to think. It's not really the way that they like to portray any of them. They all seem to be full of shit. That's just my perception. I could be wrong. If his policy agenda has caught on widely among Democratic candidates and succeeded in moving the party to the left, Mr. Sanders himself has struggled so far to expand his political base and propel his personal allies to victory in Democratic primaries. Let's see who this is. Inviting me to things. Damn it. If his policy agenda is caught on widely among Democratic candidates and succeeded in moving the party to the left, Mr. Sanders himself has struggled so far to expand his political base and propel his personal allies to victory in Democratic primaries. The New York Times reported on Sunday, noting that Sanders has endorsed only a handful of candidates in contested primaries, and 3 of them have recently lost the difficult races. And fewer than 50% of the more than 80 candidates endorsed by Our Revolution, the advocacy group founded by the Sanders campaign, veterans, have won their primaries, the article noted. Now, I want to say this. There's something true about what's being said here by the New York Times, and there's something that they're exaggerating. Yes, there is an issue where Sanders has his influence is kind of not as big as one would think, because there aren't that many candidates that have won from his group of, I guess you'd call them the new minor league group that are coming in, the people that are fighting to get into the congressional races. Ocasio-Cortez is one of them. There's also Amar Campa-Najjar, who I think is actually a pretty well put together candidate. And I'm not saying this because I'd probably vote for him. I'm just saying that he seems like he knows how to really handle himself. He's an intelligent person. It's not wrong to say that. Today, Scott Adams did a nice discussion about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and he made a very great point that she's a persuasive person, and that not just her looks, which are pretty good, but her actual tactics of how she's approaching forwarding her policies, they're very persuasive. And people were calling him a communist, and he said, what does that have to do with me being, or socialist, whatever? What does that have to do? We're talking about persuasion here. I think Bernie Sanders, for a long time, and probably still today, was one of the more persuasive candidates of the 2016 election. I think he has shit strategy. He's an idiot when it comes to strategy, but in terms of persuasion, he's pretty good. But yeah, Our Revolution has been a failure in terms of getting people nominated. So I think in that sense it's true with the New York Times, in the sense that it's a failure because I think one of the reasons it's a failure is because the Democratic Party remains unreformed, and these people can't get through into the general elections because the party is tipping the scale in favor of establishment candidates. You can't complain about progressives losing when in some cases they seem to be just smothered. And Some would say I'm putting that lightly. Disgusting, man. Pink pony. Jimmy Dore hasn't taken a breath through his nose in decades. These failures can't all be attributed to Sanders himself or to the policy positions he promotes. Candidates to the left of the Democratic mainstream still face significant structural obstacles to victory. Their campaigns rely on small donors, often by design, and they face criticism from the party they hope to represent. Sanders and his supporters have helped push the Democrats to the left, but the party has yet to truly embrace its left flank. I would say that the left wing of the Democratic Party is really they will end up being disappointed from continuing to participate in it. If you really wanted to affect the world, these people would be joining the Green Party and putting all of their momentum behind it. Instead, they prefer to drag their heels and continue this whole charade of being part of the Democratic Party. Look, I think that when Ocasio-Cortez gets elected, which I think she will be elected, eventually, if she wants to stay true to her message and her platform, she might have to defect and become an independent or join a different party. Set up like the Green Caucus in the Democratic Party. It's not unprecedented. There isn't much evidence that it will, at least not under current leadership. In April, The Intercept published an audio clip of Minority Whip Steny Hoyer urging a left-wing candidate to drop out of his Pennsylvania race. Yeah, that's true. I saw that clip. It's disgraceful. People should be able to vote for whoever the fuck they want, and people should be able to run for whatever the fuck they want. That guy ended up losing anyway, but who cares? Left-wing critics subsequently complained that the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee consistently intervenes against left-leaning candidates, many of whom happen to be people of color. If they're going to expand their map, they need to look at candidates of color, Quentin James, founder of the Collective PAC, told Vox in May. I think the Democratic Party gets it, but we've got to stay on them to ensure the results we want to see are happening now. Sanders could be a source of consistent left-wing pressure on party leadership, whether or not he runs in 2020. If he intends to build a lasting political movement out of the remnants of his last presidential campaign, he'll need to become an effective counterweight to the mainstream Democratic Party. But based on his ICE comments and the uneven results of his campaign efforts, Sanders no longer seems like just such a sure figurehead for disgruntled Democratic voters. In fact, despite his sudden popularity in 2015, Sanders has never been a figurehead to everyone in the American left. That's true. There are a lot of people who would say that Sanders. There are a lot of people who have always been way to the left of Bernie Sanders. So he used to be in this organization in the 70s called the Liberty Union Party in Vermont, and they remain far to the left of him, and they call him basically a backstabber. His primary bid drew the support of many leftists, but leftist voters in the United States aren't spoiled for opinions, or at least they weren't when Sanders launched his long-shot bid for president. That's changing now, and it's putting Sanders' politics in perspective. He does not occupy the leftmost band of the spectrum. Also true. It's certainly true that Sanders is to the left of most Democrats, but contrary to how he's often portrayed in the media, he's not a doctrinaire leftist. His principal benefit to the left has been to mainstream certain beliefs, namely that access to health care, education, and living wages are rights, not luxuries. Now, that's something I remember from the Richard Wolff, Abby Martin video that I did with Soon Fei Yang. He did say that. Richard Wolff said that even though Sanders is not nearly as far to the left as he is, he's not nearly as much of a doctrinaire socialist and Marxian economist as he is. Wolff does credit him for making a lot of these ideas mainstream. The ideas of socialism are now mainstream, thanks to people like him. Gabriel Swift is here. Thank you, sir. Larry Gerke says, if you ask me, the communists are too good for the likes of many Democrats. These stupid kids with the Che shirts and Che hats. Che would kill your dumbass and burn your parents' home and livestock. Yeah. The funniest are those gay people that end up wearing Che clothes. I think one of the responsibilities that Che had during the Cuban Revolution was to round up the gay people and and shoot them in prison. I think I even have a source for that. Yeah, this is the Collegiate Times from 2008. Ironically enough, the same rebellious youths who wear Che Guevara shirts most likely would have been targeted by Guevara had they grown up in Cuba. Guevara considered anyone who listened to rock and roll music, who wore his hair longer, who spoke up against him, a delinquent. His very goal was to make individualism disappear from the nation. He considered it criminal to think of individuals. Perhaps these young American individualists should think twice before brandishing the picture of a man who persecuted hippies, homosexuals, freethinkers, and poets, and who employed constant surveillance, control, and oppression. So where's the source of this, though? Let's consider that. Yeah, I think he did write an autobiography at one point. You see here. It's from The Guardian. Yeah, we might have to bring that up a different time. So this is from The Nation. Miguel Salazar from 2017. He says, I've noticed in the last decade or so, people say, but Che killed people, he had people shot. I've also received questions about his supposed homophobia and racism, neither of which I think are valid or germane to his life. What were his views on transsexual marriage? I don't think he had any. Homosexuality was illegal in the 1960s in pretty much the entire world. I don't know his views on being gay, but I know that there were a few people around him who were, and he didn't persecute them. When it comes to racism, that's crap, because most of the guys with him were either black or mestizo. That's not true. A lot of the people in the Cuban Revolution were you know, the whole idea is that their whitewashing would actually happen here. You know, this is from the Daily Beast. Fidel Castro's So Fidel Castro was many things: a revolutionary, a communist, a guerrillas, or so this is not Che Guevara, it's somebody else. Fidel Castro, guerrillas orator. Amid the fawning encomia released upon his long overdue death at the age of 90, it should never be forgotten that he was also an oppressor, torturer, and murderer of gay people. We would never come to believe that a homosexual could embody the conditions and requirements of conduct that would enable us to consider him a true revolutionary, a true communist militant. Castro told, so that in essence, they can't be equal. So you know, for all those people who criticize me because I don't support great gay rights, I mean, I don't believe in shooting them. I just think that they're a joke. I think, but he thinks that they're not equal to you. So, I mean, which one is worse? Somebody who laughs at them or somebody who thinks that they're inferior to you? Because I just think that I just find them ridiculous. You know, they might find me ridiculous. I don't care, because I believe in the individual, and the Cuban Revolution did not. We would never come to believe. So, in the eyes of Castro and his revolutionary comrade Che Guevara, who frequently referred to gay men as maicones or faggots, homosexuality was inherently counter-revolutionary, a bourgeois decadence to a traditional, not Latin American machismo that viewed gayness pejoratively. They married in it. So this is all a bunch of drivel anyway. Who cares? I want to break out the leather banana hammocks. is bullshitting on a fellow Jew. I don't think Fidel Castro wasn't Jewish. Is he talking about Bernie Sanders? I don't know. I hate Bernie Sanders. I honestly think he's a piece of shit, and I always have. And if anybody wants to, guilt me over that, I mean, I think he can go fuck himself. Lennon McCarthy used to say he would vote for him, and I'm fine with that. You can vote for him. I still think he's a piece of crap. Lennon McCarthy is back. I am happy to have him. And by the way, let us know when you drop your next cartoon. Is there anybody else with a channel on this chat? Mr. Wazo is here, by the way. If you have a channel, let me know if you do. You're always free to pimp your channel here. Pink Pony is here. Ryu Shiska. Always a pleasure to see you. Vote red in November. Fidel is Trudeau's dad or not? Well, that's one of those questions. You never know how to answer it because you're afraid you're gonna reveal too much, or you're gonna reveal something that didn't happen. But I certainly think that there's plenty of questions about Trudeau and his closeness to the Castro regime. So yes, being directly related to it, sure. Ask your buddy, just my stupid opinion. He's not here right now. What does that have to do with anything? Len McCarthy, definitely his dad. Even Trudeau's eyebrows hate him. Yeah. Sanders could be a source of consistent left-wing pressure on party leadership whether or not he runs in 2020. If he intends to build a lasting political movement out of the remnants of his last presidential campaign, he'll need to become an effective counterweight to the mainstream Democratic Party. But based on his ICE comments and the uneven results of his campaign efforts, Sanders no longer seems like such a sure figurehead for disgruntled voters. In fact, despite his sudden popularity in 2015, Sanders has never been a figurehead to everyone in the American left. His primary bid did draw support of many leftists. Blah, blah, blah. I think we read this part already. Sanders isn't just to the right of the average American socialist. He's to the right of Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the UK's Labour Party. Well, I mean, imagine how. I mean, that must be pretty hard to be to the right of Jeremy Corbyn. Like probably 97% of the entire civilized world. And probably 100% of everybody else. While nationalization is a key pillar of the party's platform, it is Jeremy Corbyn so far to the left he'd probably be purged in China. But they'd say, "Hey, you've gone too far. You've gone past Mao." In similar fashion, Sanders has yet to put forward a coherent leftist vision for foreign policy, a needless failure considering socialism's historical commitment to the prosperity of working people around the world. Yeah, they're committed to making people prosper by being miserable. That's really, I mean, they say that they wanted them to prosper, and then they basically take away all the tools and know-how needed to do it, because they end up creating countries that are basically eroding and falling apart. And you can look at literally every socialist country in the world that has tried to go through that. And then people will say, well, you're not looking at the right ones. You're looking at the Nordic countries. Look, you can go online, look at the statistics in these Nordic countries. In the past few years, they've been privatizing a lot of their state enterprises. It's just a fact. Sanders is mostly an accurate diagnostician of American. We'll probably do that one day, because a Swede Speaks is coming to town sometime. So we'll probably do a chat with him. He's from Sweden, doesn't live there anymore, doesn't want to go back. And his prescriptions are simple ones. Tax the rich, expand health care, and pay people enough to feed their families. But these are radical positions only because the right wing has so successfully embedded hostility to welfare and government services in American political life. Well, thank you. I'm glad people are complimenting people like me for embedding fear of these ridiculous, wasteful policies. In previous eras, Sanders would have been a relatively mainstream politician. Bernie Sanders' socialism is Eisenhower's and FDR's world if Reagan had never happened. Economic security updated by the continuing revolutions in gender, cultural pluralism, and the struggle for racial justice, Jedediah Purdy wrote for The New Yorker in 2015, when Sanders was ascendant. Sanders points out cracks in the order of things, but seeks to patch up the cracks rather than change the order itself. That's a renovation, not a revolution. And I think this article is fairly. I think it is fair, except for the title, because who is the New Republic to define the left? Well, who knows? At any given, I mean, in these times, it's considered a fairly far left socialist publication. I mean, everybody can throw in. There's The Guardian, is considered in Britain fairly far left. I mean, but there's plenty of people who would say no, it's not so much. Can I turn this into YouTube dark? Because for some reason, I hate the way the screen looks this way. I have so many damn subscriptions. It's driving me nuts here. In any case, look, there's a real issue with people trying to claim that he is left or not left, but that's not for me or you to decide. However, what you will see is that there's going to be other people who start to make this claim, because suddenly a new litmus test has been introduced. Now, why am I saying another litmus test? Because previously, the big litmus test for people who wanted to see if you were sufficiently progressive to warrant being, an Our Revolution endorsed candidate, or a Justice Democrat, or the other one, I think it's Brand New Congress. Brand New Congress is the third group. So those groups, they mostly focused on, and to my knowledge, there could be variations between them, so I might be wrong. Medicare for all, breaking up the big banks, free education, or free college or university, or vocational school, and a guaranteed federal jobs plan. I think those were the main focus of them, and of course a Green New Deal. That's another one. Now, I want to say this. This is now the next litmus test, and it could be a little more important than some of the other ones. I think Medicaid for all will remain the most important litmus test for people on the left. After that will be this litmus test of abolishing ICE. And until Bernie Sanders confirms and acknowledges these people who are now staunch anti-ICE activists, pro-immigration, pro-open borders activists. And they'll say that they're not pro-open borders, but they don't really know what the fuck they're talking about, because saying you want to abolish ICE doesn't mean anything. You do know that somebody has to guard the southern border, and what does that mean, abolishing ICE? Does that mean you're going to end any deportation at all? Does that mean you're going to legalize all of the illegal aliens living in the country? If you're not stating that emphatically, if you're not stating, or at least openly, you're not writing that in, then your policy really is incomplete and doesn't mean anything, because ICE is an instrument of a policy that you disapprove of. You disapprove of the fact that people are being stopped at the border, deported, or detained without trial until they eventually get a trial and are deported. I mean, but if this is the case, why would you object, for example, if people were simply deported without a trial? They would, the ICE would simply pick them up and drive them back. ICE would simply, we'd put them on a boat, send them to a third country. I mean, is that a solution? We send them, say, okay, you want to come here? Fuck you. Well, we're going to send you on a boat to Bermuda. And Bermuda is going to complain to us. I'm shit posting here, okay? People have to understand that abolishing ICE is not a coherent immigration policy. It's a reflexive reaction to a current event that you have some sort of sudden strong objection to. I mean, in decades you've never objected to this policy or any similar policy. By the way, I mean, in previous generations there were worse policies than this. And if you think of the 1950s and 1960s, people who tried to cross the border, they were treated to a bed or warm meals or whatever. I'd like to know, because I'm not sure that they would. I would propose that off the top of my head, I don't think that they would be. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so we don't know what you know, what the hell these people are proposing in terms of their immigration policy. I personally, I have no problem with ICE. I think people should be deported. I think we shouldn't even detain them. I think we should just send them right back across the border. These people who claim that they have political asylum, how are you supposed to prove that? And if it is political asylum from who? Abolishing ICE makes the vote faucet never stop for the Democrats. Well, I mean, they won't say that, though. Pink Pony or your horn or your unicorn out the butt. I have to take one for the team, Pink Pony. What is going on here? Oh, he's saying each one has to take a pineapple off the butt. Yeah, I mean, let's say, I mean, if they want to move the goalpost to the left, then Pink Pony is moving it to the right. I don't know what side he's pointing. I mean, the pineapple side. He's moving the goalpost to the pineapple side. Because realistically, you know, who would get behind that policy? All right, that's it. I don't think we need to go any further today about this. I didn't want this to be as long as it is, but thanks for tuning in. I got Gabriel, Pink Pony, Mr. Oiseau, Lennon McCarthy, Rausch Shiska, Larry Gerke, Vote Right in November, Pinochet, Rausch Shiska, I don't know if I mentioned you already, Len McCarthy, and Slazlowski I saw earlier, Gabriel Swift, did I say you already? You know, this is a pretty good stream. And I hope you tune in later. We might have another stream later. I don't know yet. Going to be a little different flavor of a stream, though, if we do have it. Let me just say that some people might not be happy with the stream we have later. Oh, and I wanted to say, before I sign off, that if you're objecting that the New Republic is not the left, I can understand you saying that they don't represent the entire left. But that doesn't mean that you who object represent the entire left. Because if you are just some asshole in the middle of nowhere that has spilled like nacho cheese on his lap, and you know you can't reach down because your arms are too fat to reach around your waist and you know clean the nacho cheese off of your pants. I don't think that you're fit to be the spokesperson for anybody except for yourself. Possibly not even that. So please like, subscribe, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all later.